creating a dado. This is the underside of the desktop. It's going to stop here. And then this cleat mounts on the cabinet. This fits in here. And this will be trimmed to this height. So when you look at it, it's just going to be hanging, floating between the two cabinets. Alright, so I've got to trim this with a chisel. I'm going to use this chisel. I made these little collars. I trimmed the handles down a while ago, and I made these collars from bicycle parts on these couple chisels I had. This one's obviously loose. So I've got my own, I can make my own wood dowels. I've got the tools to do that. I've got this piece. It looks like it's mahogany. And I used my calipers and picked a drill bit. That's, I don't know, a couple 30 seconds or 30, I don't know, 32nd to a 1/16 of an inch smaller than this dowel. And I'm going to chamfer the edge of this dowel right now, put a little glue in there and hammer that in. And that's going to spread this so that this is tight. That's the theory. See if we'll make that work. It's my chisel hammer. It's got a convex side, or concave side and a convex side. I like the convex side more. I use that when I'm whacking my chisels. So let's just put a little dab of this in here. I think I'm also going to wet the end of this real quick. I'm anticipating on this splitting a bit. It can't split too far. Yeah, screw it. Let's just drive it and see what happens. I chamfered this edge here. Should be able to get this to fit in here. Well, maybe I didn't make it. See, it's still loose here, so I was thinking I might not have made that deep enough, excuse me, small enough, the hole. Might be off screen here. Alright, so I didn't use a small enough hole because I could still turn this. So I'm going to have to cut that flush, let this set up, and either drill another hole. So this could look kind of interesting. If I put a smaller hole in the end of this, I can have 2 rings of color. That actually might look kind of cool. So I'm not done yet. My plug cutting saw here. No set. All right. I'll let this draw go to lunch real quick. Let this set up a bit, and then I'll come in. I don't know. Maybe I'll make a smaller dowel just by hand and drill a hole in here and pound that. And that, I mean, that could really actually end up looking kind of cool. So yeah, you get sidetracked from time to time in the middle of something because you have to fix a tool or something to complete your job. And I've been needing to take care of this, so I'll get that dialed in a little bit. Right, let's see if this here works. I got a piece of purple heart here, and I'm just going to eyeball it and shape it down to an approximate cylinder. If you try to take too much off, it's gonna, split the whole thing. But just try to take these little thin corners off. Get it pretty close to round. It doesn't have to be perfect. We're forcing this all together here. It's got to be, a decent amount smaller than the plug I already put in that handle. It's one of those situations where I suspect course, I could be wrong, but I suspect it's going to, you know, one of those happy accidents. It didn't go perfect, and now I'm doing this. And then what's going to end up happening is it's probably going to look a lot cooler. Not that it matters. You know, this is just one of your tools. It's nice if you can make your stuff aesthetically pleasing, but in the end, it's just a tool. So it's not what it's about, you know. It's got to be smaller than that. And I'm going to go significantly smaller on the drill bit this time and see if we can get some swell out of that. Speaking of swell, a lot of you guys are saying just wet the handle, and you're not wrong about that, but the problem with that is it's going to dry out again, so that's pretty good right there. All right. Guesstimate our length on this. See if we can chop it without it flying across the shop. Okay. That's probably good enough. Alright, so I put this little bit on here. It is significantly smaller than this little peg, which is not perfectly round. I got to shape the end of that a little bit more. Put the glasses on here. Excuse me. Yep. Excuse me. Alright, so I shaved that down. It's a snug beginning of a fit. I'm just going to whack this in here and hope that this is all theoretical right now. So well, there we go. It worked. That's what we're looking for right there. Now, not that this has to look good, okay? Let me get a little bit of water for you and eyeball that. All right. It's going to dry up nicely, but you guys can see that. I don't know what you can see. Let me step behind the camera here. It's not super defined right now, but yeah, it's pretty neat that there's mahogany with a Purple Heart center plug in that. It's like a bullseye. Bullseye wedge, we'll call it. Chisel handle bullseye wedge. Kind of cool. All right. This is white oak. It's very tough stuff. Hard stuff. different perspective here. Doesn't matter if this here a little peeled out. I could glue that back down. I might leave it, this little piece that's lifting here. It's unimportant. This is the underside. I've got these little things here I could trim back. I might do that freehand with the router. It's a little dangerous, the router. Saw me doing that all freehand. If I was to come in and just pull the router slightly this way across this edge, it would just wham! It would run right out on me. And so you've got to really be a man with that. Hold that tight. You should be able to do like trimming, like I'm doing now, without having to whack a chisel. It should be sharp enough to do that. Keeping in mind, like I said, this is hard stuff, so. So again, the idea here is when the cleats go on, and you'll see now this cleat won't fit super tight against here. I don't know if you can see that on camera from that angle, but here, there's a shadow here, but yeah, it's not fitting tight. So I have to remove a little material here, and not much. We'll use the wider chisel. Unfortunately, this has a busted corner. Real bummer there. So I'll just go along this edge now and trim these this stuff up to the line best I can. If you get a slight back cut on it, meaning from this line back this way, it's okay. It won't be, it's not going to be any slop in the joint when it's mounted between the two cabinets. It can't really go anywhere. The main thing is this outside edge here is cut correct. Again, this is the desktop for the butler's pantry I built. Installed that a couple weeks ago. You know, the bad weather, you have this open air shop, so it slows me down quite a bit. Let's give you guys a better perspective here maybe on this. See if you appreciate it. I don't know. It's probably not really your thing. These videos don't get a lot of views, the woodworking videos. Okay, it's definitely not 90 degrees there. Probably need to put an edge on this already. That's pretty sharp still. Catching my finger now. That's my test, is if I run the sharp edge and it catches or shaves off the fingernail like that, you know, I know that thing's still pretty sharp. These Japanese chisels are no joke. The steel, like the families that used to make the samurai swords, with all their knowledge on steel, are now making all the chisels. It's, holy cow. I mean, okay, that's right. I was expecting to see the dot on the end here, but I forgot it was the other chisel. I used this chisel here. You guys can see that now. Look at that. So the color has changed now. Should be able to see that. That's on, I don't know if that's on camera. And that's kind of cool. Now let's just, probably not perfect still. I can see here it's a little out of whack, but I'll take my time with this off camera. Oh, there's a spot I can trim. You can see with a sharp chisel what you can do in white oak here. So you have to know how to sharpen your stuff. I did a video on that, on honing how I'm sharpening my chisels. I actually tried a new technique in that recent video. I think I'll try to remember to put a link for you in the bottom of this, in the description. And this thing I'm doing right now, where I squeeze the chisel, use my body weight, man, that really, I'll go home. If I do that all day long, this thing's on wheels, so it moves on me a little bit. Anyhow, if I do that all day long, my shoulder will hurt. All right, let's just see what this looks like here. If there's a gap, I'm okay. I just don't want this overhanging here. Oh yeah, that's good. Little. This can overhang. Like, this is the top of the desktop here. Right now we're looking at the bottom. So that's good. I don't want this piece overhanging this edge. So right now we're golden. That's perfect. So now I just have to trim these down to 1 inch thick. I got to do the other side. And then these cleats mount on the sides of the cabinets, and then this desktop slides into place. But once I get this joinery finished, I can finish sanding this thing out, put some clear on it, and then install it. Yay! All right, so when you put, you should draw everything out here with pencil, and then what you want to do is you want to take your chisel, the flat side right up on the line, and lay that on there and whack it, and then drag it down and whack it again. Just make a straight line and cut right through the grain there, so that when you use your router to do the next step, you don't get any tear out up here. So. What I was talking about is this router catching and pulling you away. You have to be very careful. I didn't wreck anything there, but you have to be very, very careful. So I'll get this with 2 more passes, and I'll clean it up with a chisel. We'll be good to go. So the router dug in on me in a couple spots. Doesn't matter. Again, this is the underside. I tried to get it super close. And by the way, so I'm just going to get the chisel in here and straighten this out, which I'm not going to show you because you just saw it a few moments earlier. But I'm very close now. I'm getting this thing ready for finish so I can get it installed. And listen, I'm just telling you right now, I don't recommend you doing what I'm doing. I'm confident with it. I know what to watch out for. I'm using a 3/4 inch straight bit in that router, which is crazy. In that router bit, I meant. The router bit in the router. So you really have to be confident. You have to know what you're doing and anticipate things going wrong to avoid catastrophe. Okay? You'll see me doing a lot of things in here. The way I use a table saw sometimes, it scares a lot of people. Your thing is it's the knowledge from doing things for decades combined with extreme focus. Now, when I'm filming stuff, that's not good, right? Because I can be thinking about you instead of the camera or whatever, instead of what I'm focused on when you're using power tools. So my little safety thing is every time I use a power tool, I imagine everything going wrong and my face getting cut open, my fingers flying and blood all over the place, and that's what puts the focus in my mind. So don't do things the way you see me doing them unless you've been doing it as long as I have and you have the same confidence and proficiency level with your tools. All right? Let me get this thing done here. You're looking at the underside of this top. I'm just gonna burn the logo into it here. For posterity's sake, you know, somebody will come along at some point, years from now, and they'll come along and find this stamp here. Los Angeles Functional Art, Mike Z Design, www.mikezdesign.com. I'll hit that with a little sandpaper, take some of the char off of it, and obviously clear coat over it. Clear coat over it. Pretty neat. So I don't know, this might be it. I don't need to show you anything else. I mean, I'm going to apply some finish to this thing, and but just so you understand, this is a floating cleat system. Let me flip it over. I know some of you guys have a hard time imagining things. I have that issue with my clients a lot. So again, this is the bottom. These two cleats, I have to trim them down so that they're 1 inch tall. So if you were to look from the front, you wouldn't see this part overhanging. All right? Cleats are only going to be 1 inch high. That'll give you the illusion when you look at this top from straight across that this piece of wood is just floating. This is a floating cleat system. These two things are mounted on the sides of the cabinets. And then this piece here slides right in and hangs on those two cleats, just like that. Real simple. And this is how I do it all the time with hardwoods. I have done this thing where I will engineer shelving once in a while. And so if I'm engineering a shelf, that would be like plywood, top and bottom, with a framework. So like, you know, imagine like a ladder system, a framework of wood, skinned with plywood top and bottom, usually a hardwood edge or poplar if it's going to be painted. And then it's great because I can leave the sides open, and then I can put these nice thick cleats on and slide those engineered shelves in. So again, when you look at the piece, it's just floating. You don't see the cleats. It's worth taking the extra mile, taking the extra time, going the extra mile. Whew. That's the way the cookie crumbles, man. I'm done with you for now, today. You see what's going on. I'm going to wipe on my favorite finish, which is a wipe-on polyurethane, but I have to go out of state to get. We won't talk about any more of that. And, yeah, I'll wipe it on. Now, I will, to give you a little tip on the finish, the cans will tell you put a coat on and sand it between each coat with 220. I find that to be completely wrong. I'll get this thing sanded pretty good. I'll usually just take it down with 150. And then I'll wipe a coat on, let it dry, and then I will tack that off again. And I'll put another coat on without sanding. And then I'll tack that off when it dries. I'll put a third coat on without sanding. I don't sand between the coats. After the third coat, then I'll take something like a, I don't know, 340, 360, 400 grit sandpaper, and I'll wrap it around one of my sanding blocks here. Like this here just happens to be 150. But I'll wrap it around this, and then I'll go in the direction of the grain lightly, nice and even, usually the whole length of the piece. And that'll be nice and flat then. It'll give me a bond for a fourth coat. If I think I need more, I may put another coat on without sanding again before putting a fifth coat, and then I might hit that with this again, and then put a sixth coat. It just depends on what you're doing here. This will probably get 4 coats, probably be enough. It's no water going to be around it necessarily, and that's it. So just a little tip for you. That's again, decades of doing this. Not technically a finish guy, but I do high quality work, and my finishes are great. What I love to do, what I typically do, is after I put the clear on it, I'll do a paste wax. I like this Brie wax stuff here. This has been my go-to for years. So I put this stuff here on and buff it out, and then it's great because if it gets a little smudgy or something, just take a cotton t-shirt or something, just buff it. It gives a nice high sheen, and water will beat up on that and everything else. It kind of protects the clear that you put on there, and you can build this up over time. And you can clean it with Pledge, over-the-counter stuff, over time. And that's the wax is what kind of gives it a hand-rubbed, finished look. It makes something look more antique-y. And they sell, this is a clear, but they sell this in colors, like with ebony and mahogany and, different tints to it. So you can add a little bit of depth and color to the piece with the wax. So something to keep in mind. That's it for now. I hope you guys got something out of this. The chisel repair was pretty cool. It's so funny because there's so many little things in this video. I don't know what to title it. I'll catch you in the next one. I'm going to get this some clear on it today. These are the sealing parts. I've got to dial in today. I got to fill whatever knots or whatever, and then sand those out and prime them. Then they get painted, and then that's a floating shelf that has to get painted. So once all that's done, I'll get that stuff installed over at the project next week. And then Andrew's table parts are underneath the blue Fernie pad back here. We're supposed to get rain Sunday and the Monday through Wednesday possibly. So putting a little Fernie pad over your wood like that, by the way, it's a nice way to keep the moisture from getting to the wood. Have you had enough? You had enough of me already? Go, right? You want me to go? All right, I'm going. I'll catch you in the next one. Be good to one another.